What's up, everyone? It is your girl GL Beauty 87 here, aka Grace, and today I figured we get into another installment of Once Hyped Palettes. Where are they now? So this should be episode 4 of this series. I started last year in 2022 because, you know, I kept telling y'all about how these gas prices keep creeping up, and now they're creeping back up after the holidays over. They was like, you know, I'm going back to work now, so let's give us some regular amount of coins. So I figured it'd be fun to talk about some palettes that are in my collection that I have and you might have, that, you know, was once hyped, that everybody was talking about or looking at or putting in their yearly favorites, and now, you know, like, you don't see them anywhere, you don't hear about them anywhere, and it's like, what's going on, girl? You loved this thing. Where did it go? So I don't have that many this time because this was like a inopportune, like, kind of prompt video that I just decided to pull some of the palettes out that I have here at my grandma's house. And y'all know I don't have nearly as many palettes here as I do at my house, and there's still an insane amount here because there was a whole video dedicated to them. If you haven't seen it, I'll try to remember to link it up there, my eyeshadow palette collection playlist. I think I have 4 or 5 episodes because I have that many eyeshadow palettes to talk about. But without further ado, let's get into this video and talk about these eyeshadow palettes. So the first palette I have to talk about is the Kaleidos Escape Pod palette. I feel like I talked about this before, but at the same time, when I watch my videos back, I swore I only remember hearing myself talk about the 5 pans and not like this bigger one. And I watched like all 3 of them to make sure I didn't have any repeats, because I know sometimes I do that. So my apologies if it is, but I felt like I had put it in one, but I didn't see it in any of them. So I'm gonna go with that. I didn't. So this is what she looks like on the inside. I feel like everybody was talking about this palette. All the Kaleidos fans were talking about how much they liked it. I just thought it was okay. I was never truly crazy about this palette. First of all, I didn't like this huge bulky packaging, but I feel like a lot of us don't like this huge bulky packaging because people were talking about it with Angie's palette and with this palette, how they didn't like the bulky packaging. Now, of course, we know the quality of Kaleidos is good. I don't like these like kind of neutral shades that they added down here randomly at the bottom. I wasn't feeling that. I would have just preferred they did all, you know, colorful, since they, you know, end up coming with all those neutral quads later on in the years to come. So it's like, I'd rather they just let this be colorful and fun what they normally made. They had that one little neutral quad, not quad, the one neutral 6 pan for the people who like neutrals, and then a more mauve one with the pop of blue in it for the people who still like a pop of color with neutrals. But everybody talked about this palette, in my personal opinion, and now I feel like nobody really talked about it. But this was limited edition, and I think like they finally got rid of it like literally last year in 2022, because I know I saw it was out of stock on their website. This and the Flower Punk one were out of stock. I meant to talk about that one. I'll talk about that one in another video though. But both of those are out of stock now, just random side note, because they were limited edition things. So I don't think they're coming back, because this was summer, I want to say 2020 that this came out, and we in 2023. So I figured, you know, that ship is sailed and it's moved on. And maybe that's why people don't want to talk about it, because they know it was limited edition, like all the people that get in PR and were talking about it and whatnot. All I know is I feel like people raving about it a lot and then it just disappeared. But I will say that, you know, that's how it goes when you're a YouTuber. You have to talk about stuff and try a whole bunch of different stuff. And I've said that in all these videos, but you know, like, I don't know who's watching what. So a lot of times we have to try things over and over again, and I mean, not over and over again, constantly, and so we don't get to use things over and over again. That's what I meant to say. UOMA Beauty said it in her video at the end of 2022, where she was talking about how she had tried to see how many times she used the palette, and she tried to track it and all that type of stuff, and she saw she's only using it 1 or 2 times, and if you get to use it 4 or 5 times, it's good. And I've said that in videos as well. So I mean, like, y'all gotta understand, the reason that I don't get to do it is that, but it's like the reason you don't do it, I'm unaware of, other than you constantly watch me create content and it makes you want to go out and get these other things. That's why I shifted my content in 2020. If you didn't notice, and tried to get you to use more of your older things. I still showed new things, but I tried to get you to remember that you had these older things. Anyway, next palette I have is the Latte 2 palette from Dominique Cosmetics. I feel like everybody was talking about this one because everybody loved the first one so much. So I feel like everybody talked about this one too, because she came out with a new one. Now, people didn't talk about this one as much as they talked about the first one. I think they liked the first color story better because it was a little bit lighter. Of course, I liked this one a little bit better just because it had a little more depth to it, in my personal opinion. And these are supposed to be used for your face as well as your eyes. So I think it's quite nice that she was able to find fun pops of colors to utilize for you to use, even though she made this for you to use it on your whole face in addition to your eyes. So like, because she made the deeper ones, now I could use it as a bronzer, whereas before with the other palette, I don't think I could necessarily use that brown as a bronzer. It's at home though, so don't quote me, but I like the fact that she came up with 2 versions, because her second version is more geared toward deeper skin tones in my personal opinion, whereas her first one was geared more toward the, I guess, light to medium sector, or what is it, fair to medium sector, if you will. And I feel like this one's more tan to deep and dark friendly. So I really liked this palette. for that purpose because I know it's used for all over, but people don't really talk about this anymore. But I think she discontinued all her older ones and she's just using the new ones in the acrylic packaging, so I don't think you can get this one anymore anyway. So again, that might be another reason why people aren't talking about these. If you notice, a lot of things I leave in my grandmother's house are limited edition, but I want to be able to reference something from the brand, so that's why a lot of the times you don't see newer things, if you will. You might see older things, but it makes it fun for when I have to do videos like this because I know that all the product is here and I didn't have to bring it and drag it from my house for once, which is a lovely thing to think about. And I dread having to do it, so I'm glad whenever something is here and I don't have to go grab it, girl. But next I have the Nomad, what is this, Tokyo palette? Or the Harajuku Tokyo palette. This is what it looks like on the inside. I remember when Baddie Bean was raving about how wonderful this was. Ooh, but my shade just fell out. And I was thinking about decluttering this, so I'm glad I didn't try to sell it to anybody because the shade literally just fell out on my leg and all I did was open it and show. Okay. Anyway, Baddie Bean was raving about this palette and how wonderful it was. But oh, and it's breaking, so I can't just put it back in the way it was. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and then the other piece just fell in. Okay. But yeah, so Baddie Bean was raving about this palette and how wonderful it was, and then the shimmer fell all over my floor, and now I'm just feeling some kind of way. I like the shimmers at the bottom. That was what I was about to say when I was holding it and it just fell. Those are my favorite things in the palette. The shimmers that fell on the floor, because I mean, look how stunning that is. I mean, it looks gorgeous and nice. Let me swatch it since we have so much to share because the whole thing fell out. But yeah, I love the shade. See how gorgeous these shimmers are? So I was excited about this palette mainly because of the shimmers in it and how nice it looked. But you know, it's falling all over the floor, so I just have to hold it like this now. But that's what she looks like. But people just stopped talking about that palette, but they come out with so many palettes since then, so I feel like that might be why people aren't really like raving or talking about it the way they used to. Plus the format has gotten better over time, so that could be another reason. Now I'm just gonna be a shimmery, like, you know, lady, because I have this all over my hands. So it's, if you can see, my hand is very sparkling green on the inside. Anyway, moving on. So the next palette I have to talk about is the Unearthly Cosmetics Don't Be Jelly palette. Now, I remember when this came out and everybody was excited about it because they didn't get their hands on the All I Ever Wanted palette. So she came out with another shimmer palette people were excited about. These are more of my, excuse me, color aesthetic. Y'all know these are blue, green, purple shifting shimmers. So this one was definitely more of my speed. Oddly enough, though, when I ranked all my Unearthly Cosmetics palettes, I forgot about this palette because it wasn't at my house and it wasn't in the drawer with the rest of the Unearthly Cosmetics palettes. This is why it's important to keep your palettes together, because I put out all the other Unearthly things that I had in my collection, but this didn't make it to the video because it was in like the drawer in between this one and the one with all the rest of the Unearthly Cosmetics things. I don't know why it ended up there, but it didn't get in my rankings video. Random side note. So if you're seeing this video before you see my rankings video, or you see this video after my rankings video, then you know that's why it's not in there, because I forgot it in the drawer. And consider how many Unearthly palettes I have, I wasn't about to refilm that video for just to add this one eyeshadow palette. So yeah, but yeah, so I really like this palette. I like this one actually better than All I Ever Wanted, but I do like All I Ever Wanted 2 better. But I feel like people talked about this for a minute too, just because they were excited she came out with another all shimmer palette, because you know they didn't get their hands on All I Ever Wanted, and then she relaunched All I Ever Wanted permanently along with All I Ever Wanted 2. So once that happened, I feel like the hype died down for this one and people didn't really talk about it that much. She reformulated. I don't know if it's necessarily reformulated, but she redid this palette to where like it's in the square pans now as opposed to the circle pans that she used to have stuff in. So this is one of the older ones that I grabbed. The only other older one that I have in my collection besides this one is the Poison Apple palette. But I really liked this palette and still like this palette. It's just I don't get to reach for it as much because I always have to review things for you. But it's a gorgeous palette. If you were interested in a shimmer palette, I definitely think that might be the way to go, because at least you can get a discount on it. Now it's not gonna be a huge discount because I think they only get 15% off. You can use code Cage Makeup, you can use code Fridge Face, you can use code Cage Makeup for Nomad as well, or make sure you use code Dion for Nomad though. Make sure you use code Dion for Nomad. And Kaleidos doesn't have codes and Dominique Cosmetics doesn't have codes, but we used code Dion for Nomad in this household. But you can use code Cage Makeup or code Frizz Face for Unearthly Cosmetics. The next one I have to talk about is e.l.f. and Chipotle. So I feel like this dropped within 20 seconds, and then 20 seconds later it was gone. It was like, oh, okay. So we just, oh, okay. It's like they had it, and then it disappeared, and I was like, oh, so we're just not allowed to have it anymore, because I bought this off somebody off with a Poshmark that ended up having it in their collection. But it's like they dropped this super quick. Then I think Tina the Fancy Face did a video on it, or she didn't even, I think she either did the video on it or she didn't get a chance to do the video on it just because they dropped it so quick. But this has to be like their best quality that they had, and I feel like everybody that ranked this was raving about how great it was and how wonderful the quality was. So I'm like, why would you pull it 20 seconds later? But it's like, we don't know if shipping got delayed on this, and you know, since it was an IP, they had to like, they only had it for a certain amount of time. So if their shipping was delayed, that might be why they only had time to do the one restock, because by the time they did the second restock, their IP amount of time might have been up or something. I don't know. I just know that like the formula on this is amazing, and everybody was raving about it when you could rave about it, and then it just magically disappeared. As you can see, I barely got to use mine because I think I got to use it one time when I think they were supposed to restock, or maybe they did restock and then it sold out and they didn't get it anymore. I honestly don't remember how it was because it was so long ago, but I do remember people raving about this and saying this was great e.l.f. quality. But again, you got to think they had to collab with an IP, so they need to step their game up in order to sell it, and they did just that because it sold out so quick that nobody else really got to get it after the first go around. As you can see, you have your nice little greens and your orange moment or whatever, and then you have all your neutrals over here for people who like neutral tones. So it was a great palette, and people did rave about it, but since it wasn't out that long, or it wasn't, consumers weren't able to get it that quickly, it's like, what I'm supposed to do? I can't talk about it some more, and you can't go buy it, because that's what I'm supposed to be here for, to help you make purchasing decisions. So that one was a flop just because they didn't have enough time to get a restock. But you know, I don't know, girl, I don't know. Okay, I only got 2 palettes left, so I have another Unearthly Cosmetics palette. This is the Bunnies palette. Now, I know a lot of people like the color story of this, but I know a lot of people were like me and was like, why are the shimmers bigger than the matte? The matte should be bigger because we're going to use more mattes than we're going to use shimmers. So I like that when she came out with the new one, she just made them all the even sizes instead of making them bigger and smaller. I mean, I understand what she did with, like, you know, pairing the colors together and whatnot, but I was just like everybody else, like, why are the shimmers bigger than the mattes? We all know we're going to use more mattes and we're going to use shimmers, girl. Why did you put all this? Why did you give so much extra shimmer? I don't understand. But I do feel like this palette was raved about. I feel like just about everything Unearthly Cosmetics comes out with is raved about within the last, what, 2 to 3 years or something like that. So I think like end of 2019, 2020 is when I first started hearing everybody talking about this brand. But I liked this palette. I didn't rush out to buy it when it first came out because of what I said, like the shimmers being bigger than the mattes. But I did end up getting my hands on it, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. And I feel like I heard a few creators raving about it and talking about how much they liked it. I don't remember if anybody yearly in favor, but I do remember people raving and talking about this palette, so I felt the need to talk about it in this video. Okay, y'all, so we down to the last palette. This is the It's a Mood palette from ColourPop. If y'all remember, I redid mine, but I feel like this was like one of their mega palettes that everybody loved, like, because it was grungy and colorful, but it still had neutrals to it. I feel like everybody raved about this one right here. This one, and I heard a little bit of buzz about Play It Jewel, and of course like the cooler tone ones people liked, but I feel like this was the fun, colorful one that they came out with that everybody actually raved about and loved. Please remember, I did redo mine. Y'all know I'll be redoing ColourPop palettes whenever I please, just because I'm like, if the color story don't work for me and I know I can pop out your shades, that's what I'm going to do. So this one is redone. This is one of my favorite redone ColourPop palettes out of all the ColourPop palettes I've redone. This is what she looks like on the inside. I love the color story of this. A lot of you all have told me you like the way I redid it too. It's like, I was trying to remember which shadows I picked from which palette to like tell you all if I could, because I'm like, I honestly just don't remember. But I know some of them are, from, what did you call that palette? Ooh La La, and then some are from some are from It's My Pleasure, and then some are from Lie Like You a Lot. So what, if you all remember when I ranked all my color palettes one year, like the Lie Like You a Lot, the It's My Pleasure, and the Ooh La La fell and broke some shades. So that's when I just incorporated them into this palette, and then just bought new versions of those palettes because they were kind of old too. So I think they were like when they originally launched. But the crazy thing is they still work pretty well. It's like they don't work to 100% like they used to, but they work pretty well. But the point is, everybody was raving about this palette. In my personal opinion, I feel like everybody talked about how they liked the color story and they didn't feel like it was too many like shades, repeating shades, considering like this it's quite a big palette. But I like the way they set up the rows in this. I feel like everybody started setting up their rows the way Blend Bunny did once I guess they saw how it worked for her, because I got this nice little green row here. They already had this blue and purple row set up. I just changed some of the shades out. I changed some of the pinks out. In this row, they had this neutrally cool tonish type row, and then they had this orange type row. So I feel like this is a great palette for people who like pops of color but still like, you know, some boring looks, because you get a good variety of both. And it's a good like travel palette for someone who wants to have color with them on hand but still wants neutral things for the daytime. They can change to the colorful stuff in the night. So I really like this palette. Everybody else really likes this palette. I feel like this was in people's best of whatever year it was. I want to say this came out in 2021. I feel like this was in people's best of 2021's videos. I'm pretty sure it was in mine, because this is a really nice palette, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. I think I'm supposed to be filming another video with this, so I'm trying to remind myself so I don't take it home. So let me put it in the box real quick. But those are all the palettes I had to talk about in this episode of Once Hyped Palettes, Where Are They Now? So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Remember, you all in diamonds. I hope I inspired you to pull out some of these palettes, girl, because gas prices are going back up. Like I say, I know I always make that joke, but it's like, it's true. I didn't lie. It went from like $296 by my house, and now it's like $350. I'm like, what? Where did it go? What happened? So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Pull out some of these palettes, girl, and remember, pull them out, and remember you all are diamonds, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be blessed, girl. Bye.